The opening session of the afternoon is a discussion on civilisational memory validated, the case for Mathura and Kashi. We invite on stage Advocate Vishnu Jain, Lawyer, Supreme Court of India. Dr. Meenakshi Jain, Historian. The session will be moderated by Alo, our Festival Director.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this post-lunch session, we knew we had to keep you awake. So we have with us, just keep it here. Yeah. Two warriors that exemplify the way Hindus fight their battle. One is by knowledge and one is by law. So the way we have divided this session is, first we will trace the historical basis of Mathura being the Janmasthana of Lord Krishna, and then the subsequent attacks that the city had to bear, and then the legal fight for the space, and then the legal aspect will be taken over by Vishnu Jain, and then we will redo the same thing with Gyanvapi, with Kashi. We'll start with Meenakshi ji giving us the historical basis as to why we claim that city and that space to be sacred and ours. And then Vishnu ji will give us the legal aspect. So that's how we will divide the session. So Meenakshi ji, with Mathura, I can always say, how do you know it has anything to do with Krishna? So what are the, what evidence do you have?
Actually, I am a student of civilisational and popular memory. And shall I start again? Okay. So my study has left me absolutely amazed at the way popular memory has been vindicated by literary, epigraphic, and sculptural evidence. Now I'll begin with the literary evidence. You know, in the popular mind, Krishna is associated with two things. One is the Gita, and one is Mathura, that this is birthplace. So it is very surprising that the first literary evidence or reference to Krishna comes in the Chandogya Upanishad. The Chandogya Upanishad is among the earliest Upanishads, and it has been dated around 900 BC. Now Chandogya Upanishad says, it mentions a person called Devki Putra Krishna. Now, in the entire history of Indian religion or mythology, we only know of one Devki Putra Krishna. And what is more, the Chandogya Upanishad tells us that Krishna came to his guru. It mentions the name of the guru, Angirasa. And then it proceeds to tell us what Krishna learnt from his guru. So all this is clearly stated in the Chandogya Upanishad, among the earliest Upanishads. Now what is absolutely remarkable is that when we look at the Gita, which is so intimately associated with Vasudeva Krishna, then the teachings in the Gita more or less match what Devki Putra Krishna learnt from his teacher. So this is a memory that goes back thousands of years and has been vindicated by the literary evidence. But apart from Chandogya Upanishad, before Common Era, we have 2-3 other literary evidences on Krishna. The first that I would like to mention is Panini. We know Panini as the great Sanskrit grammarian, and he's dated around 600 BC, and Panini writes rules of grammar, and in that he has a particular term for Krishna Bhakts. And the next literary evidence that we have is Patanjali. Patanjali actually hailed from Mathura. And he wrote the Mahabhashya, which was an elaboration and explanation of the rules that Panini had written. And Patanjali says that Panini had one rule of grammar, that if you mentioned two people together, like Gita and Saraswati, the shorter name would always come first. So Gita would come first and Saraswati would come next. But Patanjali says that Panini made one exception to this rule, and that was in the case of Vasudev and Arjun. And he says that Vasudev was the worshipful one. So this, in the case of Vasudev, Vasudev's name will always come before Arjun, because Vasudev was the worshipful one. So, we're talking about literary evidence. I can, keeping the time factor in mind, I will just elaborate two other literary evidences that we have before Common Era. One is the account of Megasthenes, who was the who came to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. He mentions the two cities of Mathura and Gokul as the stronghold of Vrishnis. And we know that Vasudev came from the tribe of Vrishnis. And the last evidence that I would like to cite is a Roman historian who wrote in the 1st century AD. And he cites the examples of eyewitness accounts, eyewitnesses who accompanied Alexander's army. And he writes that, when the army of Porus marched into battle against Alexander, they had a picture of Krishna before them, because carrying the Krishna image before them was the strongest motivation for the soldiers to fight valorously in defense of the image. So these are some early literary evidences that we have all before Common Era.
So now literary evidence, Krishna, very good. But since these issues become controversial because we are actually talking about space, can you link and associate what is it in Mathura that is there in terms of evidence again, that links Krishna to Mathura specifically?
Yes. Like we all associate Mathura as the birthplace of Krishna. And the epigraphic evidence that we have found from Mathura is absolutely breathtaking. We have to keep in mind that Mathura was attacked from the time of Mahmud Ghaznavi till Ahmad Shah Abdali. So for over 800 years, it was attacked again and again. So what has been left and found in Mathura is just accident. Nothing is complete, everything is in fragments. So it is so surprising that we have an inscription, epigraph. It is at the back of a door jamb. Door jamb means, a chaukhut. And that chaukhut or door jamb that has survived is 8.5 feet tall. So that can give you some idea of what a grand temple there was. Now, this epigraph is important because it's the first epigraph associated with Krishna found at a place that we now know as Katra Keshav Dev. And the inscription is absolutely important because it tells us that it was written in the reign of a particular ruler. That ruler's reign ended in 15 Common Era. So it is before 15 Common Era, which means it is almost more than 2000 years old. And 8.5 feet is what has survived of that door jamb. And that inscription says that, at this place, there was a quadrangle that this person erected, and around that quadrangle, he had this building. It describes the building, only parts of it have survived, and he describes the Toran. There's an arch over there. And most important, he says, my name is Vasu, and I am erecting this shrine in honor of Vasudev. And he says Vasudev is Dev, Devom ke Dev, God of gods. So this inscription, more than 2000 years old, records the construction of a temple at Katra Keshav Dev in honor of Vasudev. And people who claim the Krishna Janambhumi site as the site of Lord Krishna, they cite this as the first epigraphic evidence to support their claim. After that, soon after that, we have another epigraph which was actually found deep inside a well, because Mathura was attacked again and again. So this inscription was found inside a well. It is called the Mora well inscription. And this Mora well inscription is so astounding. It actually mentions a stone shrine. It describes the stone shrine, and it is said in that inscription, it says, it is being erected for the 5 Vishnu heroes. Now we all know that Krishna came from the Vishnu tribe, and the 5 Vishnu heroes were Krishna himself, his brother Sankarshan, Anirudh, Pradyumna, and Samba. So these 5 people are mentioned in that inscription. Again, the inscription was only partial, but this kind of evidence to have survived in the city of Mathura, which was attacked and again, is absolutely remarkable. And to conclude this story of the Mora well inscription, in 1911, there was a mound over there which was excavated by Alexander Cunningham. And from that mound, 3 statues were recovered. 3 murtis. All the 3 murtis were headless. It was only the torso over there. 2 were of males and 1 was of a female. Now, I'm not saying this, but every art historian all over the world, in India and outside India, the leading art historians and art scholars, they are unanimous that the statues 2 represented Vasudev and his brother Sankarshan, and the 3rd represented their sister. So, this kind of evidence that has survived the devastations and the, vicissitudes of time, it only perhaps tells us that Krishna is determined not to leave his sacred space and has left these telltale signs behind.
So you mentioned attack again and again. Now I want you to focus, because it really brings into, it brings into focus what Vishnuji is doing, and also a typical way that we have always fought back, and that is reclaiming sacred spaces. So, so while you talk about the attacks, can you focus more on the number of times we have actually rebuilt the temple?
Yes.
And then we'll move on to...
but again, I have to say that the answer is only partial, because not everything has survived. So Mathura was attacked for the first time by the forces of Mahmud Ghaznavi. And Mahmud Ghaznavi's historian, Utbi, he left a detailed account of the grandeur of the temples that they saw there. And they were totally bewitched by the temples. They said they cannot have been made by human hands. They would have been the work of gods. But that Mathura was devastated. And for the next 100 years, we have no information on what happens in Mathura, because not everything is survived. But it is absolutely astounding that we have a partial inscription of 100 years after Mahmud Ghaznavi's invasion. It is by a person named Jhajja. Now, we don't know anything about this Jhajja. And if this inscription had not survived, we would not even know that there was a person called Jhajja, because there's no other reference to him. And this Jhajja, he says, again, the inscription is partial. He says, I have rebuilt the Krishna temple. Now, this is a time when political power was mostly not in the hands of Hindus, but small little rajas, landlords, or individuals remembered that there was a temple at that site which had been demolished, and it was incumbent on a proud Hindu to recreate that temple. So he built a small temple, and we know about this because that partial inscription has survived. That temple that was built by Jhajja was destroyed by the forces of Qutubuddin Aibak, who came with Muhammad Ghori. But we find references to other attacks on the temple by the Lodhis, by the Tughlaqs and Lodhis. So is it possible that these people repaired the temple of Jhajjar to the extent that they could, and they continue to worship over there? And one point that I want to make, which is very important, that in the time of Akbar, many Jesuits, please cut me because I don't want to get into Vishnu's time.
Just
Okay.
continue.
So in the time of Akbar, the Jesuit missionaries came. They were very sure that they will be able to convert Akbar into Christianity, and many of them actually stayed in Akbar's court also. So one of them was a Portuguese missionary. His name was Father Montserrat. His book has survived and it has been translated into English. Any of you can look it up on the internet, because it's always important to check what a speaker is speaking from the podium. You should not accept whatever I'm saying at face value. You should check it. Now, this Father Montserrat, he goes to Mathura and he says that, all the temples have been destroyed except one temple. And he says that, wherever these broken temples were there, Hindus have taken, bits and pieces from those damaged temples and constructed small shrines. And he talks about this temple at Mathura, which is the only standing temple over there.
Okay, so now Vishnuji, so there are a series of invaders, series of looting and beheading. Read her book in order to understand the graphic primary source accounts of the way they proudly told us how they decapitated our heads and put a price on every child's head. So that's worth reading in order to understand the rage in the belly. Now, Vishnuji, can you tell us, so Ahmad Shah Abdali, after Aurangzeb, is the last known person to have raided the place, and after that, there has been a takeover by the Marathas. So Maratha, British, and court case onward, can you take the Mathura case up from that point?
Yes. A very good afternoon to all of you. धर्म संस्थापना के देवता भगवान श्री कृष्ण के चरणों में मेरा नमन. And I want to start from the point where Shri Krishna Janmabhoomi temple was lastly demolished, and it is being dated. It was demolished lastly by Aurangzeb in 1670, and the Farman of Aurangzeb finds mention in the book called Majlis-e Alamgiri, which was translated from Persian to English by Jaduna Sarkar, and the translation is as I'm quoting, quote, during this month of Ramzan, 1080 January, February 1670, the emperor, the reviver of the faith of the prophet, issued orders for demolition of Dehura of Keshav Rai in Mathura. In a short time, the destruction of this strong foundation of infidelity was accomplished, and on its site a lofty mosque was built. The idols, large and small, of the temple were brought to Agra and buried under the steps of mosque of Begum Shahi in order to be continually trodden upon. The name of Mathura was changed to Islamabad. Majlis-e Alamgiri, page number 95 to 96, translated by Jaduna Sarkar. So this is the translation, and this is the original document, and the original Farman of Aurangzeb is still there in the Asiatic Library of Calcutta. So this is a translation from that authentic source. The second very important crucial evidence is that there was an Italian traveler, Niccolo Municci, who traveled at that place, and he said that there's a temple which was standing there. Now, what happened is that in Shri Krishna Janmabhoomi case, the total area which is involved as of now is 13.37 acres of land. In 13.37 acres of land, we are in possession of around 11 acres of land. Around 2.5 acres of land is in possession of the Shahi Eidgah Masjid Committee. Now, it so happened that after, as Meenakshi ji rightly told, that it was demolished lastly by Aurangzeb in 1670, there was a battle of Govardhan, which happened in 1770. And the Marathas won this place in battle from the Mughals in 1770. After that, in 1803, the East India Company took over the possession of that entire area. And in 1815, there was an auction of this very land. 13.37 acres of land was auctioned by the East India Company, the British government. Raja Patnimal of Banaras purchased this property in an auction purchase from the British government. After that, there was a series of 10 rounds of litigations between the Hindus and the Shahi Idgah Masjid and various Muslims of that area. And in all those 10 rounds of litigations, we won from the British courts at that point of time. Apart from that, then it so happened, and I'm coming to my case, what our case is. The possession and title of this property on paper was of the Hindus. So it so happened that the temple there was in a dilapidated condition. It was in ruins. So Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya in 1940s, he decided that he'll build a grand temple here. And just like Ram Mandir, we had collections from the entire society. He said that we'll take Loha, we'll take contributions from the entire society, and I'll bring a grand Krishna Janmabhoomi temple there. So with this idea, the heirs of Raja Patnimal sold the property
in its entirety. That's what we should always remember.
In its entirety for 13,400 rupees. And why 13,400 rupees was fixed? Because they were having some loans. So Seth Jugal Kishore Birla decided that they will pay off the loans, and that property, that title should be handed over to the Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust. So it is with that regard, the entire property was transferred to Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust. In the meantime, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya ji was no more. Then Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust, in the trust deed in 1950, it is written that the temple there is lying in ruins, and the object of the trust was to build a huge lofty temple there. Now it so happened, and I can call it a treason, I can call it a biggest fraud in the history of this country, and you can relate to whatever I am talking with Bunty and Bubbly, where two fraudsters had sold Taj Mahal to the people who were not the owners. Two people had sold Taj Mahal who were not the owners. So something like that has happened here. So as I told you, Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust was the original owner of this property. A fake organization was formed in 1958, and the name of the organization was very similar. The name of the organization was Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh. Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh was formed in 1958. Very interestingly, Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh files a civil suit in the civil court of Mathura in 1964 on the footing, on the premise that on certain areas of this 13.37 acres of land, there is illegal possession by Shahi Idgah Masjid. So kindly remove this illegal possession. Very shockingly, on 12th of October 1968, there was a compromise which was entered into by Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh and Shahi Idgah Masjid, that wherever you have come into the possession of the property, you remain there, and we will remain in the latter area of the property.
So what was Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust doing at that time?
It was defunct, it was silent, it was not able to raise its voice because of the political leadership. In Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh, the members were the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh at that point of time, Dwarka Prasad Mishra, Anant Shayyam Iyengar, who was the governor of Kerala, and various other high-profile people were involved in Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh. So virtually the Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust was defunct at that point of time.
So what happens to possession at that point?
Yes. So possession was with the Shahi Idgah Masjid. So when we researched into this matter, me and my father went to the civil court of Mathura. We got the old records. Old records were in dilapidated condition. We get it translated in. First we got it typed into Hindi, then translated into English. Then we found the fraud which has happened. And then we researched on a legal provision which says that if anything has been obtained by fraud, it can be challenged at any point of time. So even after 60 years, we can challenge a compromise which has happened through fraud. So as I demonstrated before you, that this entire property, the original owners of this entire property were Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust, and the compromise was done by someone who was not the owner of the property. So we filed a civil suit in the civil court of Mathura in 2020, and the civil suit, let me tell you that the civil suit has been admitted, and seeing the historical importance of this entire issue, we filed a petition before the Allahabad High Court. Under the CPC, there is a provision that the High Court can do original trials of a particular case. Let me tell you, the original trial happens in Delhi, in Mumbai, in the High Court. But in UP, the first court for original trial is Civil Judge Senior Division. Against that order, you have to go and appeal to district judge, then to High Court, then to Supreme Court. So there is 4-tier system. So we said that this matter is of national importance. We cannot afford a 4-tier system. Please give us early hearing. And we want the entire trial to happen in Allahabad High Court by the High Court judges. Just like it happened in Ram Mandir case. The 3 judges of Allahabad High Court did the original trial in 1989. Allahabad High Court, I'm telling you with a lot of sense of pleasure. The Allahabad High Court accepted a request. This on 31st of May 2023, my transfer petition was allowed. All the civil suits pertaining to Shri Krishna Janmabhoomi are transferred to Allahabad High Court for original trial. And the Shahi Eidgah Masjid went to Supreme Court in appeal against this order. And the honorable judges of the Supreme Court, while hearing, said that the order of Allahabad High Court is absolutely right. This matter should be concluded within 6 months. And they have called for a report from the registrar of the Allahabad High Court as to how many cases are being transferred. They will segregate those cases which are copy-paste cases and those cases which are genuine and are filed on the original side with some originality in the pleadings. They will be transferred for original trial to Allahabad High Court, and there will be a time-bound direction by the Supreme Court to do this trial within 6 months. So it's a matter of time when I'm here on your Lit Fest that after 6 months or within a year, if I may say, we will find a final judgment we'll get a final judgment from the Allahabad High Court pertaining to Shri Krishna Janmabhoomi case. And I want to say something on a very, very important footing. See, the point is this. Meenakshi ji has narrated here the historical importance of Krishna Janmabhoomi. The historical importance of Krishna Janmabhoomi is mentioned in Gar Sahita also. It's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also and various other scriptures. The point is why we are contesting for this 2 acres of land is that our Lord Shri Krishna, the original Karagar of Lord Shri Krishna, is still beneath the Shahi Eidgah Masjid.
Now, I have a problem with that masjid because if you read her book, Alexander Cunningham says that the mosque built by Aurangzeb is in a dilapidated condition. But I went to Mathura 2 years ago. It's a brand new, nice, tagda structured thing. So, in this context, does the Places of Worship Act apply? Because clearly this is post 1947.
See, let me tell you, the Places of Worship Act we read from the binary is the only problem is with all of us is that we read Places of Worship Act from the binary of the activists who believe that the 15th August 1947 situation has to be intact and nothing can be filed to change that situation. Let me tell you with a lot of sense of responsibility that it's absolutely a false narrative. Absolutely a false narrative. The words which are used under section 4 subclause 1 and 4 subclause 2 of the Places of Worship Act is religious character. The religious character need not be changed. So suppose if I enter into a mosque and I put an idol there, I ask a question to myself that will the religious character of mosque change? The answer can be only one, that no, the religious character of mosque cannot change. In the same way, if someone enters into a temple and offers namaz there, captures the property, has an illegal possession of the property, will the religious character of temple or deity change? The answer is only one, it can never change. And let me buttress my submission. In Ram Mandir case in paragraph 116 and 117, 2021 SCC page 1, the Honorable Supreme Court has held that once in a place a deity is established, a deity comes, a divinity comes, till the end of the time it remains deity's property. So we understand this narrative. We understand this narrative. Once above, always above. अरे हिंदू लॉ भी यही कहता है. Once a temple, always a temple.
Is it a temple or is it the sacred geography of the space of the temple?
See, there are both the things. Where Lord Shri Krishna is born, that entire place is divine to us. That entire place is sacred to us. And after, because as Meenakshi ji rightly pointed out that there were many demolitions of this temple. So there was a temple which was consecrated also. Deities were established also. So here the argument of divinity, the place itself being a deity is also there, and the temple being existing at prior in time to this Shahi Eidgah mosque was also there. So that's why we are saying that this place is so sacred to us. So give it back. And the so-called Shahi Eidgah mosque is standing on a wrong footing by way of illegal possession. I can tell on your channel, my last comment is on your platform that Shahi Eidgah mosque has no title documents on this 13.37 acres of land. The title is with us, the possession is with them.
Yes.
So thank you for waking up to this fact and filing this case. We only gratitude to you to the way you've taken it up, and I promise you next year we'll call you back and you announce it to us.
Now I think I have to come here with my report cards.
Yes.
So next year I'll be coming with some good news.
So
Yes,
next year
absolutely.
you'll be the hero of the festival.
So with that, we close the discussion on Mathura. So similarly with Gyanvapi and Varanasi, Meenakshi ji, I come back to you. I have learned at least this much in our flawed history books that Varanasi is a very, very ancient city. So again, why should I believe that, that this particular space is sacred? Tell me why I should believe, based on whose inscription and what historicity, that that space of Gyanvapi and is
Can I
sacred.
say whatever I have to say at one go?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thing. So, the antiquity of Kashi was discovered by chance in 1940 when work was being done to expand the Kashi railway line. And when that work was being done, then the people who were digging, they found artifacts and they contacted the ASI, and the ASI realized the significance of it. And this is the oldest site of Kashi, that is the Rajghat site. So that Rajghat site has revealed the antiquity, and it has, we have found so many small seals, and those seals are so interesting because they talk about, they are Shiva seals, they are Vishnu seals, there are seals of Vedic Pathshalas. You know that every branch of Vedic learning was being taught over there, and the seals of some of those Pathshalas have survived. Now, I want to actually cut the story short. I just want to make one point before I come to the main thing. That is that every so-called religion that we have of India, Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Jainism, Buddhism, all were well represented in Varanasi. And for the proof of that, we have excavations by the ASI. I don't want to get into that, maybe at question answer time. Now, what happened was that in the time of Mahmud Ghaznavi, Varanasi or Kashi was attacked twice. The first time by Mahmud Ghaznavi's son, and the second time by his nephew. And it is so heartening that the Hindu political leadership could have responded in this way. Till that time, the political center of North India was the city of Kannauj. Now, in the face of these attacks, the Gahadwalas, they shifted their capital from Kannauj to Kashi, because they said that, and they issued charters that we are the defenders of Hindu tirths in Kashi, Ayodhya, Prayag. So these 7 copper inscriptions of the Gahadwalas have come down to us, in which they are declaring that they are the protectors of holy cities. So imagine a dynasty showing the astuteness of shifting their capital from Kannauj to Varanasi. So this is one point. Keeping in mind the time factor, I will jump to the most important ruler of this Gahadwala dynasty, that is Govind Chandra. Now, what I found most fascinating was that Govind Chandra had a minister. His name was Lakshmi Dhara Bhatt. Now, he came from a place called Mithila. Now, what is Mithila? Mithila was the region that was ruled by King Janak, and that was the region or the hometown of Sita Mata. So, it is so difficult for us to visualize how centers of learning remain true to their calling through this long period when political power in many times was not in their hands, but the communities whose job it was to preserve learning, they continued that tradition. So Lakshmi Dhar Bhatt came from this area, Mithila, and he became a minister of Govind Chandra. And the first thing that he did was to write a major granth, Kritya Kalpataru. Why did he write that? Because, Varanasi, it had been attacked again and again. And so, but the Hindus of that area, they did not surrender their sites. Of the ruins of the temples, they built small shrines. So, Varanasi had become a maze of small temples and was very difficult to guide a pilgrim to Varanasi. So, he wrote this Mahamatya detailing the important sacred sites at Varanasi, and over 200 sites he listed in the Kritya Kalpataru. That should give us an idea of how resilient was the political and intellectual leadership of this country. I want to just cut the story short. Then, after the Gyanvapi dynasty was defeated by Muhammad Ghori, the last king Jayachand was defeated, and we have after that the invasion of Qutbuddin Aibak, the commander-in-chief of the Muhammad Ghori. And Qutbuddin Aibak is on record to have destroyed the Kashi Vishwanath temple. What happened to that temple, we will discuss later. What is absolutely enthralling is that within 15 years of the attack and the destruction of the Kashi Vishwanath temple, a king came from Bengal, from the Sena dynasty of Bengal. A king came. He did not have the time and the resources to build a grand temple, but in the center of Varanasi, he built a pillar of victory. And he named that pillar of victory after Vishwarupa, the king of the world, that is Vishwanath. So, it is, we think that we never fought back, but the resilience and the counter argument was so strong. Then, after this pillar of victory, we have a series of attempts by the local rulers to build something at Varanasi. So, this is something that we should keep in mind. And then the last point that I want to make before I hand over to you is that in the 16th century, 6 families from Maharashtra migrated to Banaras. And it is very rare for 6 families to have made such a contribution to the intellectual and spiritual heritage of India. And the most important person, according to me, was Narayan Bhatt. Narayan Bhatt wrote a granth in which he described the holy places, Tristhali Setu, and he said that, Vishwanath temple is in ruins, so people who come may not find the link, but he told the people that it is your dharma to keep the dharma of that place alive, even in the absence of a link. So what you do is that at that site, you come daily and circumambulate around that site and imagine there is a link. So imagine, this is the response. And he was involved with Raja Todarmal in the construction of the Vishwanath temple. So when the temple is built, then he says that now you may find a new link there. When there was no link, then you had to do, this was your dharma. But now when you come, you may find a new link. You have to pretend that it's an old link and continue, worshipping at that site. And last point that I want to make before I hand over, Narayan Bhatt's great-grandson, his name was Gagha Bhatt. And Gagha Bhatt, he was contemporary of Shivaji. So when Shivaji was running away from Akbar's court, Aurangzeb's court, Gagha Bhatt helped him to reach the Deccan safely. And then he tells Shivaji that, you're not consecrated as a king. So you have to deal with these other people as equals. And I will prepare a ceremony, because no king had been consecrated for centuries. So he says, I will prepare a ritual by which you will be consecrated as a Hindu king. He prepares that manual which has come down to us. It's there with us even now. And he goes to Raigad and he presides over the coronation of Shivaji. So these are, things which fill us with so much. They tell us a very different narrative. And then we know that Aurangzeb destroyed this temple, and there Vishnu Jain will continue.
Actually, a question, you have some time. So, Aibak destroyed the Kashi Vishwanath temple.
Yes.
On that place, what stands
Yes,
today?
that's very important. The first Vishwanath temple was destroyed by Qutbuddin Aibak, and at that very site, Queen Razia, she ruled only for 4 years, but she found the time to occupy that site and build a Razia mosque which stands till today. So that site was lost. The original site was lost
Exactly.
to the Hindus forever.
So the Gyanvapi, so the temple that was built by Narayan Bhatt is not the original sacred
Now,
geography.
This is something that I don't want to get into. But A.S. Altekar was a very important, prominent resident of Varanasi. He was also professor of history at BHU. So, at that time, you could, and anyone had free access to the temple. So, he has written a book on what he found at that temple. And he says very clearly that this temple that was built by Narayan Bhatt was not built on vacant land. It was built on a 15th century temple, the ruins of which Altekar has found. So, that means that we found another site. And that site, he says, the temple was destroyed by Sikandar Lodhi. And on that site, Raja Todarmal and Narayan Bhatt built that temple. So, it is a very, very remarkable story that every sacred site and sacred center of the Hindus were attacked again and again and again. And the Hindus didn't have political power, they didn't have that much finances, but they clung to those sites and they never surrendered to those sites.
So now up to you.
See, the point is, just like Mathura, I told you that there is here also in Kashi's case also that there is farman of demolition of temple by Aurangzeb, where that farman is there in Majlis-e Alamgiri, and it has been told and quoted that the temple of Vishwanath at Banaras has been demolished. Now I want to differ with Meenakshi ji for an important point, that this temple was lastly constructed by Raja Todarmal in 1585, who was the court master of Akbar. And this entire theory of Razia Mosque and Vishwanath being two different sites, I don't believe in that theory. My view is little different, because if Razia Mosque is right outside the Vishwanath temple, right outside, and that mosque has, if you will see that mosque, it has all the fresh constructions. You can't say that that mosque was a ruins of an old temple which has been converted into a mosque. So we are talking about something which is 600 years old. So we don't know what has happened. But as far as the historian's version is there, as far as the travel accounts are there, this very place where the Gyanvapi stands is the original site of Adi Visheshwar, the Vishwanath temple.
Where we see the ruins of the world.
Where we see the ruins of the old temple. This is where we see the ruins. And this is what it corroborates with all the historians, that temple is in ruins. In Razia Mosque, you don't see any temple being in ruin. Point number one. Why we are contesting Kashi Vishwanath case and why this is so important to us and sacred to us is for a very, very important reason. And I want to quote James Prinsep. See, we have a mentality that if we quote foreign authors and writers, it's very believable in the legal world also and for the masses also. So what James Prinsep has said about Kashi is very interesting. He says, and I must quote, "The Vedas and the Shastras all testify that Visheshwar is the first of the Devas, Kashi the first of the cities, Ganga the first of the river, and charity the first of the virtues." Unquote. So Kashi for us is the mother of the civilization. It's the cradle of the civilization. When the world was not existing, before the existence of the world, if someone can think of any city, it was Kashi. And Kashi means it was the abode of Lord Shiva. Then why we are saying it is so important is Iskan Puran chapter number 6, page number 58, verse number 71. It says, I am quoting, all other forsaken, avimukt places are procured through Kashi. Nirvana, which is to get rid from the cycle of death and birth, is achieved only after getting Kashi. The benefit of Nirvana is not achieved by any other means, even by residing in any other religious place. And the last verse which I am quoting, which is very, very important to show that this entire 5 coast area is very sacred to us, is the chapter of Skand Puran chapter number 7, page number 250, verse number 131. Avimukt area is in the circle of 5 coasts. At this place, there is Visheshwar Shivling, which is Jyotirling. I am again repeating. Skand Puran chapter number 7, page number 250, verse number 131. Quote, the Avimukt area is in the circle of 5 coasts. At this place, there is Visheshwar Shivling, which is Jyotirling. So this is the historical and the religious importance of Kashi and Visheshwar temple to us. Now what we did, when we did all this research on Shastric laws and the fact that Aurangzeb demolished the temple, we filed a case in the Varanasi Civil Court. Let me tell you that there was a title suit which was filed for this very place in question in 1991. And till date, as I told you yesterday, till date that title suit is hanging on the premise and on the footing that this Places of Worship Act, the suit is barred. Initially, when that suit was filed, it was rejected by the Civil Justice Senior Division on the ground that this suit is barred by the provisions of Places of Worship Act. The Hindus went in appeal before the district court. The district court held it in our favor and said that the religious character of the place can be ascertained in a trial and civil suit will go on. Against that finding of the district court, the Anjuman Intizamiya went in a revision petition before the Allahabad High Court in 1997, and from 1997 till date, that matter is lingering before the Allahabad High Court. The next date of hearing is on 18th of September, which I have to attend after leaving from Pondicherry. So the point is this: what we did, I filed a civil suit, and to understand my civil suit, I would like to draw the map so that I can explain before all of you that what our case is. Kindly excuse my drawing, but just to give a. So this is gate number 4. Can you hold the mic? So this is gate number 4. This is generally known as VIP entry gate. So if you would have seen the Prime Minister who was giving a speech on the new temple complex was at this gate when he was giving that speech. So from this gate we enter. We take a left turn. So here we find 3. I'm demonstrating before you the position of Kashi Vishwanath as existing today, and then I'll narrate our case. So here we find, when we enter from gate number 4, here we find 3 sub-shrines: Lord Hanuman, Lord Ganesh, and a Shivling. Then from this left turn, we take a right turn, and here we go. Then you find the gate of the new temple complex. Let me also tell you that this new temple complex where we worship at Kashi Vishwanath was built by Ahilyabai Holkar in 1770, and it's a Sanketik Jyotirling, it's a Sanketik Shivling. This is not the original seat of Adi Visheshwar. So then we enter the new temple complex. Here there is new temple complex. I am mentioning it. New temple. So this is gate number 1. From here the general people, they enter and they do worship and puja, and here the Ganges is flowing. So this is the Ganges. From here people enter. The idea is that you can take water from gate number 1 and directly go to the new temple and offer water in the new temple complex. So this is gate number 1. This is new temple. This is the entry to the new temple. And now here in the middle of this area comes the mosque, the so-called alleged Gyanvapi mosque. And let me tell you, the name of the mosque is Gyanvapi mosque. You don't find any word as Gyanvapi in any Islamic scripture. So here are the 3 central domes. This is the western wall. Then this entire area has been barricaded. So I'm making this barricading. All right. So these are the 3 central domes. Near these, so how do we enter this area? When we go in this gate number 4, we take a left turn. This is barricading. This barricading has been cut that barricading has been cut for an important area here, right in front of these 3 deities, and that gate is made for the entry of the namazis and for entry for all of us who want to go at that place for advocate commission. So this is the gate. Then here are 3 cellars. One cellar is in possession of the, very important, this cellar is very important. This cellar is in possession of the Anjuman Intizamiya till today. Here are other 3 cellars also. These were old shops where in any temple we sell flowers, we give various other things, koila, flowers, everything was in these 3 shops. And then these are 3 central domes. This is the western wall. So I'm just making, this is west, east, and this is south, and this is north. All right. And just let me also tell you that in the new temple, the Nandi is facing this side. All right. Right outside Nandi, right opposite Nandi, there is one more cellar which was in possession of Vyas Parivar till November 1993. This is the other cellar of Vyas Parivar. And this is the Vazu tank, the so-called Vazu tank where we have found a Shivlingam.
You can tell about who's the Vyas Parivar.
Yes, I'll tell. Just let me draw this. So this cellar is with Ejaz, the manager of the Masjid committee. This cellar is with the Vyas Parivar, was with the Vyas Parivar. This is the Vazu tank. These are the 3 central domes, and this is the western wall where Ma Shringar Gauri is there. All right. So what we did, now I'll explain you our case. We said,
When you say western wall, those are the ruins of the
yes,
very
yes,
obvious ruins
yes,
that are
very
visible.
obvious ruins. So
Yeah.
those obvious ruins are on this western wall. So there are certain important features, and then I'll come to our case. The point is this, that this entire 3 domes are not a fresh construction. These entire 3 domes are standing on the basis of the western wall. The western wall is the ruins of an old Hindu temple. So for creating these 3 domes, no fresh construction was raised. Only on the western wall, these 3 domes are, so-called domes, are standing. And let me tell you with lot of sense of authority that beneath these 3 central domes, there are shikhars of Hindu temple. Shikhars of Hindu temple, which have been demolished, and over them, these 3 central domes have been created. This is the western wall of Ma Shringar Gauri. Then here in this Taikhana of Ejaz, this Taikhana, we find the pillars with lot of bells, the shloks of Sanskrit, and lot of pillars of Hindu temple. All the pillars on which the so-called mosque is standing are the pillars of Hindu temple. Then we go ahead. We go to the Vyas Parivar Taikhana. In Vyas Parivar Taikhana, which was with us in possession of Hindus till November 1993, puja was going on. Sanskrit shloks are there in Vyas Taikhana, all the pillars of our Hindu temple, and it is not any fresh construction. We were worshipping in the premises in question. Now it so happened, now I am coming to our case. It so happened that we filed a case saying that this entire barricading was made by Mulayam Singh Yadav government in 1993. So before November 1993, we were worshipping in the premises in question, meaning thereby all these 3 deities which I am telling you, which are outside this barricading, were initially inside. Lord Ganesh, Lord Hanuman, the Shivlingam, the Vyas Parivar was worshipping in the premises in question till November 1993. It is only in November 1993 that this barricading was made and we were thrown out of the possession of the property. It happened only in November 1993. And please corroborate this fact with the fact of Places of Worship Act. Places of Worship Act was enacted in 1991. So in violation of the Places of Worship Act, in utter violation of the Places of Worship Act, we were thrown out in violation of Section 3 of the Places of Worship Act, if I may be specific. We were thrown out of the property in question, and our continuous puja, which was happening, was stopped by Mulayam Singh Yadav government. Now the fact is that we have lot of proofs of puja, continuous puja. James Prinsep, who was the district magistrate of Banaras, has given a map showing that this is a Ashtmandap Mandir. A.S. Altraker, who was a very well-known historian, which Meenakshi ji has also referred, he said that even after demolition of the temple, the Hindus used to worship at the plinth of the mosque by believing that their idol and their deity is located inside. Now what we did, when we filed the suit, we said, And one more important fact I want to tell you, that Ma Shringar Gauri is on the western side of the so-called mosque. Ma Shringar Gauri was worshipped continuously. It was only after barricading that Ma Shringar Gauri was thrown outside the barricading, and till today we worship Ma Shringar Gauri once a year. On the 4th day of Vaisantik Navratra, we worship Ma Shringar Gauri. So how can this be a mosque when Ma Shringar Gauri is on the western side, where no mosque can exist, where a deity is existing on the western side, because they offer their namaz towards the western side. So on the western side, Ma Shringar Gauri is there. On the northern, Nandi is facing this side. Here we found a Shivlingam during the Advocate Commission survey. Vyas Parivar is worshipping in the premises in question. Lord Hanuman, Lord Ganesh were inside the premises in question. Shivlingam was inside the premises in question. And let me also tell you that in this entire area, here, just near this Vazu tank, there's a well also. Like ancient old Shiv temples, every time there was Abhishekam of Shivling, it was through the waters of well. So what we did, we filed a case in the Civil Court of Mathura, and we asked for right to worship. Now what is the right to worship? The fact is that we were, as I explained you, that we were worshipping in the premises in question till November 1993. And in violation of the Places of Worship Act, our worship was stopped. So when we filed a civil suit, we said that, look here, we want to do an Advocate Commission survey of this entire property. Advocate Commission survey was ordered in our favor, upheld till the Supreme Court. An Advocate Commission survey happened on 6th and 7th of May, 14th, 15th and 16th of May 2022. In this Advocate Commission survey, as I told you that beneath these 3 central domes, there are shikhars of Hindu temple. Ma Shringar Gauri is existing on the western side. Then there are deities, Hindu deities and signs and symbols in the Vyas Parivar Tehkhana. There are Hindu deities, signs and symbols in the Ajaz, the Tehkhana, the cellar of Ajaz. Then there are Hindu signs and symbols in other 3 cellars, which were shops, the shops for flowers and etc. And it was the heights and the epitome of denial when on 6th, I still remember that day very clearly, 16th of May 2022, it was a Monday, Buddha Purnima, when there was in the Vazu tank, I asked for the Advocate Commissioner, I asked to lower down the water. Because I saw from a far distance in Advocate Commission that there is something around circled in that Vazu tank. And this Vazu tank, let me tell you, is on the first floor of the so-called mosque. So initially they resisted. They said that no, waters need not be lowered because there are fishes which will die. So I said that don't worry, I come from Jain community. We will take care of your fishes. We will not let the fishes die. I asked the state government brought a special oxygen and everything. The waters were lowered down to 2 feet. We entered inside that place. And after seeing my deity, after 370 years, I couldn't stop myself. My legal team couldn't stop themselves. And they shouted, Namah Parvati Pate Har Har Mahadev. And that day itself, that very day itself, we decided that this is the last day when you are doing Vazu on our Shivlingam. The Kashi Vishnu Trust was very generous. They offered sweets and prasad to the advocates of the Muslim community. I went to the district court, Varanasi, and I asked the honorable judge to seal the entire premises with immediate effect. And by the time their chai nashta was over, the premises was sealed. Then, after that, the story doesn't end here. For the first time, what we have been taught as lawyers, an order of the civil court, civil just senior division, can be challenged to the district court, then to the high court, then to the Supreme Court. But law is different for them. First time in the Indian legal history, an order of a civil court, civil just senior division, was challenged directly in the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court, they asked and they insisted to do Vazu at that very place. The Honorable Supreme Court, by order of 20th of May 2022, directed that that area will be sealed. The central government, the union government, made a strong stand before the Supreme Court that even if you touch that Shivlingam, there will be law and order problem. And the Supreme Court made that order intact. Until today, that area is sealed. Now, we went a step ahead. After all these things happened in Advocate Commission, the videography and photography, everything happened, which everyone has seen. Then we asked for ASI survey of the Vazu tank. So initially they created a confusion in the minds of the district court that if you do ASI survey of the Vazu tank, Shivlingam will be demolished. As if they were very much concerned about the Shivlingam. And they also said on affidavit that this is not a Shivlingam, this is a fountain. First time on affidavit they said. We went against the order of the district court to the Allahabad High Court. Allahabad High Court called the ASI and said that how can you conduct this exercise? The ASI submitted a report of 52 pages and said that we can conduct this exercise, and in this exercise Shivlingam will not be damaged. I have with me here Professor Desi Raju, who is a very well-known geologist, and he also told me that prima facie Vishnu, after seeing that lingam, it is a lingam to me, it is not a fountain. Then against the order of the Allahabad High Court, where Allahabad High Court directed, let me also tell you, Allahabad High Court directed the Shivlingam, the Vazu tank, to be investigated by the SI. And if Anjuman Intizamiya was so firm in their belief that this is not a Shivlingam, this is a fountain, they should have accepted the order of the Supreme Court. But it happened, they should have accepted the orders of the Allahabad High Court. But it happened separately. The Anjuman Intizamiya went in SLP to the Supreme Court and got the order of stay on the SI survey. But as we have learned that we never give hopes, we again moved an application. So now what the position is, this Shivlingam area is excluded from the SI survey. We again filed an application that Shivlingam order has been stayed by the Supreme Court, but the rest of the area can be surveyed by the SI. The matter went to the district court. I filed an application before the district court of Varanasi, and I argued that sometimes histories are repeated and sometimes histories are created. And I request your lordship to create history this time by ordering ASI survey of this entire area. And the district court of Varanasi, first time in the history of Kashi Vishwanath case, ordered for ASI survey of the entire area on 21st of July 2023. Against that order of ASI survey, the Anjuman Intizamiya again went directly to the Supreme Court by giving a reason that we can't approach the Allahabad High Court. The distance from Varanasi to Allahabad is 100 kilometers and distance from Varanasi to Delhi is 800 kilometers. So they went to Supreme Court directly. The Supreme Court stayed the survey, ASI survey, and they asked the Allahabad High Court to conduct the hearing immediately. The Allahabad High Court conducted, the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court conducted the hearing on 25th, 26th and 27th of August. 25th, 26th and 27th of July 2023 for 3 days continuously. The judgment was reserved, and on 3rd of August, the Allahabad High Court upheld the order of the district judge and directed the SI survey to be conducted in the entire area, excluding the Vazu tank. Against this order of Allahabad High Court, they went in Supreme Court, and on 4th of August, we won the matter from the Supreme Court also. So I am telling you, despite the time being over, because this is very, very important. From 21st of July till 4th of August, we have won from 3 courts within a span of 15 days on the question of ASI survey. And very soon, we are going to ask for expeditious hearing of this Vazu tank also, so that Vazu tank also must be investigated. I can't tell you as of now that what we are finding in the ASI survey, because there is a gag order. But let me tell you, the ASI has been given a time till 4th of October. When the ASI will file their report on 4th of October, it will be historical.
So next year, it's not just the Mathura, but we also expect So next year is not only Mathura, we also expect you to tell us the story of Gyanvapi when we see you again. Okay, just like you said yesterday, we'll have to thank 2 Jains. So we at LitFest, we're thanking you in advance, and we culminate it with next year. So justifiably, there is no question and answer in this session. I wanted them to say what they had to say. So with that, I think the nation bows to both of you in deep gratitude for what you have done.